And we're back. So, after many months of being absent from the channel, I am going to bring back the Budget 302 for a few videos. At least two. Where we left off last time, we had done kind of like a dynamic study on the valve springs. After studying it and looking at some of the numbers there, I kind of decided that the valve springs are they're kind of marginal in terms of their ability to control the valves at these newer, higher engine speeds and with the 1.7 rockers that are in there. What the valve springs are in this right now, they're stock replacement valve springs for a 5.0 HO. At any rate, we talked a bit about that and what may be limiting this engine. What I want to do in this video is talk about the valve spring kit that I got for this, which is a really popular kit. We'll talk about the kit, the new parts that come with it. We'll take some measurements, put those values into the spreadsheet that we used last time, and see, how much of a difference that makes. And the thing of it is, the kit comes with new springs, obviously, but retainers and locks. And because of that, we'll have to reweigh some things. We'll have to reweigh the springs, the retainers, and the locks, I guess. And then we'll enter that in there, and we'll see. We're certainly going to see that the RPM capability of the newer springs is going to be quite a lot higher than, what we've been dealing with so far with these basically stock replacement springs. So what I'm going to do next is, we'll just have a quick look at the kit, what came with it. Here's the kit that I got. This is, I'm not really here to advertise for anybody, but I just wanted to show you which one I got. It's a very popular kit, and I think this one came in at around like 160, 170, something like that. But it's a very popular kit. A lot of people have used them, and the reason they're popular, it was advertised as fitting between a 289 and a 351 Windsor. The other thing about it is that you're not supposed to have to do any machine work to your cylinder heads, and these are intended for like the stock cast iron cylinder heads. They're supposed to support up to like 540 lift, something like that. So anyway, let's have a look at it. Got the instructions there. Springs, new valve seals. It's got a little tool in there so that you can put that over the valve stem and slide that over where the locks are and everything, so you don't damage the seal as you install it. And there's a height gauge in there too. It's right there for checking the installed height of the valve spring. And I believe that is yeah, so these are a 1.8 inch installed height valve spring, new locks, shims as needed. And the other thing that's kind of different about this is it's got different, so I didn't see anything in the instructions that said different valve springs for the intake versus the exhaust, but there's definitely an exhaust retainer and an intake retainer. There is something I am a little concerned about, which we can go have a look at, but it should be fine. So if you remember quite a while ago in this series, those few episodes there where I was doing the porting work on these cylinder heads, and the last thing I had done on them was I had the 351 Windsor valves installed in it. One of the things that was different between the valves that were in this originally, I think it was on the exhaust side. I think the intake side was the same. I can't remember. I'd have to check it on. The groove for the valve locks on the new valve was like up higher, or I think it was up higher than it was on the original valve. What I ended up doing there to account for that and still be able to use the HO springs on this head with the 351 valves in it, I found this shim down here, and I forget what it was. I think it was like 90-some thousandths thick. Based on the way that kit is advertised, I should be able to use this, and whether or not I need that shim in there anymore afterwards, I don't know. But that'll be for later. But what we need to do now, in the advertisement, it showed what the seat forces were, the installed height seat force, and the spring rate, and I think it advertised what the spring force would be at like 540 thousandths, which was like, I think, the maximum that they were recommending for these springs. But what I need to know in order to run this through my spreadsheet again is what is the spring force when the valve is at maximum lift with this arrangement here. And we'll measure it, and then we can move inside and take those numbers and put them in the spreadsheet and see how we do. So I'm not going to go through the whole process or anything, but this is the tool that I use to measure the spring forces. It's a pretty good tool for home engine builders, I think. Way better than not having anything, and they're not too expensive either. Anyway, just going to show you that. Here's that spreadsheet I did back in February, apparently. If you want to know more about this and how I was doing this stuff, just go watch part 27 of the Budget 302 series. What I got last time was basically these numbers here. I didn't worry about the exhaust last time because I could tell by looking at the masses of these of the components in there that the intake side, that was going to be the most likely to have trouble. So, but in the meantime, these are the numbers we had before, roughly. I did update those a little bit, but here are the exhaust side the exhaust side values, and what these are very rough estimations about the inertia forces that, or the acceleration forces that are happening inside of in the valve train, and that the valve spring would kind of have to like overcome in order for things to work right. And what I was seeing last time is that even if from going from the 1.6 to the 1.7 rocker, we kind of went from, so, and then the other thing is, like, over here are the valve spring specs that I recorded for the stock HO springs, and like they were basically very similar, but the seat force was 80, right around 82 there, and open was about 230. So looking at these over here, if you're going with the 1.6 numbers, it looked like maybe going from the 1.6 to the 1.7 kind of started to exceed these values here on the springs a little bit. So, and maybe that caused some valve control problems, but I don't know. It's difficult to say. The way I did this, and like I said, you can check that out in part 27 to find out how I did this. But these numbers here are it wasn't a terribly sophisticated way of doing it, but it kind of gave me a little bit of an idea, or a rough idea, of what was going on here. So what I did today is we were out there and I remeasured those springs for the trick flow springs, and we got 121 on the seat and about 285 open at 472 lift. Pretty big difference. We're going from like 230 something to like 280 something, and that's like a 50-pound force difference between these two, which should, I mean, if I was just barely having valve train control issues with these springs, I would really hope that going up 50 pounds in force would make a difference there. So what I had to do is I had to measure the masses of the things that are going to change here. So basically the springs, locks, and retainers. So we can see here that the valve spring is a little bit heavier than the original springs, but on the other hand, the retainers are lighter. That'll also play into the calculation for the total effective mass here of the whole valve train. But what we can see over here is that these numbers actually went down a little bit because the total equivalent mass of the new parts is a little bit less than the old parts. So what does that mean for us with our new springs? These numbers here, these inertia or acceleration forces in the valve train, did not change very much. But what did change pretty significantly is the spring force that we're going to see over here. And I would take these numbers here these are estimations. These numbers here, these are just estimations, but they kind of give me a little bit of an idea about what may be going on. So before we were comparing these numbers here, especially on the intake side, with these numbers here, especially that number there. And we can see that before we were exceeding that a little bit, but now if looking at these, we're either below that number there or very, very close to it. So I've got my fingers crossed that maybe these valve springs might make a difference for us, but then again, they may not. So that's what I did there. I guess the next thing to do is, if we've got time this week, is we'll just go out there and just go through the process of installing those valve springs and just get that engine all back together and ready to run again. So now that we've figured out the whys of what we're going to do today, and that hopefully maybe these new springs may be helpful to this engine, now let's get started installing these parts. What comes with the kit is this rod here. They want the installed height of the spring to be 1.8, And you can kind of see there, hopefully, that that's how long that is, at 1.8. And what the installed height is, it's the distance between that part of the retainer there and where the spring meets the cylinder head. So that distance is the installed height. I think that that's an okay way of doing it. There's no reason you can't do it that way. But what my recommendation would be is to get a valve spring height micrometer. These really aren't very expensive, and they'll give you a much better idea of what your installed height actually is. I mentioned it earlier, but there's an intake valve spring retainer and an exhaust valve spring retainer, and you want to keep them separated and install them in the right place. And here's all the shims that come with it. We'll probably be using some of those, and the locks and everything. And it did come with new seals, and it came with this tool here that you just put over the valve stem so that you can slide the new seals over the groove area without hurting the valve guide seal. So these are E7TE heads. I had mentioned earlier that I had done some modifications to these heads, including putting different valves in. Put in the older style 351 Windsor valves in it. The intake valve where the groove is, I think on the intake it was in the same place. Here on the exhaust, the groove for the lock is up higher. Anyway, like I said, there's another video about that, and you can look at it. When I did that, I was using this with the stock HO springs. Because that groove had moved up, I needed to move the spring up. I think it was like 93 thousandths. So I went and I bought these shims here. If you were gonna just use the E7T head with the stock valves, you probably wouldn't have to have that. But because I did make that change, I'm gonna leave that in there. Now, the other thing that was kind of puzzling to me is that this kit, it was advertised as 289 to 351. So what I'm guessing is that there's enough shims that came in the kit to account for if you have this type of valve in your cylinder head. The kit came with new valve guide seals. I just put these in not long ago, and I think I'm just going to leave them in there and save those other ones for maybe another time. I don't see any reason why to replace them at this point. I thought maybe there was something special about them in terms of diameter or whatnot, that they were needed there to fit, but I test fitted the spring with these ones on there, and it looks like there's tons of clearance there, so I'm not worried about that. But I did just want to go over that shim there, the seals that I'm going to use. And just one other thing I'm going to mention real quick, just to save you a potential disaster. Anyway, I got shop air going in there, which holds the valves up against the valve seat. The other thing is I've got the piston up on top dead center, so that even if this failed and the valve fell in there, it would just go down about that far and touch the piston, and it wouldn't go falling into the cylinder. That's something you're going to want to watch out for, because it could turn an easy job into a whole mess. Okay, so we'll get started by measuring the installed height of the exhaust valve here, and I'm coming up with 1.782. So we said that they're asking for a 1.8. That's about 18 thousandths less than the 1.8 that they're looking for. But what they are saying is they give you a tolerance of plus or minus 15 thousandths. So really, I'm out of their specification, I'm out of their window by about 3 thousandths. I think that's going to be okay with me, and that's going to be okay with me for a couple of reasons. It's only 3 thousandths, which is not very much to be out by. So, and then the other reason for it is this is the stock HO camshaft that I'm using, because really what you're trying to avoid there is you don't want the valve spring to bind, and being out by 3 thousandths I don't believe is going to harm my situation at all. That's just the way I'm going to do it. I got the height micrometer set up on the intake side this time, and on this side we are out on the other side of things, so we're out 1.823 about. That one I am going to correct. So we'll put a shim underneath here and measure it again. For me, I kind of want it on the tighter side with this setup. Anyway, so let me go pick out a shim. With respect to the shims that this kit came with, it looks like we're mostly looking at like about a 30,000th shim there. Looks like these other ones are about 15 thousandths roughly. So it looks like about a 15 thousandth shim there and a 30 thousandth shim there. And I do notice that it is stamped on it, but it says this side up, so that is directional. So I'm going to put a 30 thousandths in there because I kind of want it on the tighter side of things. And with that shim in there, we're at a 1.792 about. So that's fine with me. Now let's move ahead and just install the spring. We'll just go through and do the other 7 cylinders, and we'll catch up later. So just in case anybody likes looking at data, these are all the installed heights I got, starting with cylinder 1, and you can see how it's laid out. And that's what we got there. Alright, so let's go wrap this video up. Okay, so I got all those springs installed. Seems like it went fairly smoothly. I'll just have to find some time to get this back into the dyno room and get it running, and then we'll have a chance to figure out if that valve spring upgrade did anything for us. At any rate, I guess that's about all I got for you this week, and I'll see you next time.